Well, today we are going to talk about strategically rebranding for maximum growth and impact. Thank you for being here today. I know as business owners we're always busy, so making time for this today, I appreciate you doing that. I'm Holly. I am a graphic designer. Among other things, I'm a brand manager, an artist, an illustrator. I also teach yoga. Problem solving is my passion. I have over a decade of experience helping businesses stand out among the competition by providing thoughtful and creative design solutions to tell your unique story. Your business is your passion and design is mine. I am a fourth generation entrepreneur. I work with clients of all sizes, from global to local. I've worked with companies in the legal, insurance, financial, and staffing industries, as well as with local governments and nonprofits. I also have corporate marketing in-house experience. And in 2001 to 2004, I served as the treasurer for the Freelance Exchange of Kansas City. So I've worked with a lot of different creative professionals, both paid and volunteer work. And I was also an entrepreneurship scholar at the Block School at UMKC. I see at least one familiar face there, so thank you if you're familiar with that. It's a great program. I'm also in the process of a rebrand myself, so don't judge my design too hard. As I am in transition, as you can see from my cards, I have some very bold and bright colors. And some things in my business has been changing, and I have several different businesses and trying to figure out how to bring those together. So I've, in addition to, just my experience working in marketing and my experience in entrepreneurship program at the Block School, I've done a lot of research to figure out what I want my rebrand to look like. So when we're talking about a rebrand, what is that, right? So we're thinking about rethinking our marketing strategy, changing how our brand looks, how it talks, how it feels, and how you want to be perceived by your target audience, kind of like a strategic makeover for your brand. It could be a partial or a total rebrand. If you've been in business for some time, you may want to hang on to some aspects of that brand to retain that brand loyalty. But you can still refresh your image to kind of keep up with changing times or keep up with the market. You can think of a partial rebrand as an adjustment based more on the visual identity, or you might be, offering some new offerings or serving some new markets, so that needs to adjust. So we'll look at a few different things today. Is a rebrand right for you? And clarifying your message. Then we'll look at identifying your target market or identifying your new target market, and then look at how to reach your market through your strategy. So should you rebrand? Rebranding is risky. You want to make sure you're doing it for the right reasons and you have a strategy behind it. Some reasons not to rebrand, we'll look at those today, because rebranding alone is not going to guarantee success in your business. Some reasons to rebrand and strategies that work with that. And then we're also going to look at some different companies today who have done some rebrands, some successful, some not so successful, and look at some lessons that we can learn. So speaking of it not successful, in 2010, the Gap rebranded. It spent $100 million on the rebrand, and after 6 days, it actually changed the rebrand back. So we'll look at that, hopefully. Oh no, okay. I don't know how to play this.
So a funny thing happened to the Gap this past week. They came out with a new logo, and it was so heavily criticized, they killed it and changed it back. Here's the old familiar Gap logo, which is now back to being their logo. And here is the new one they tried to roll out. It turns out the graphic arts community on the web is a tough, vocal crowd. One of them posted their own graphic opinion of the Gap logo. Others said of the new design, a child using a clip art gallery would have done a better job. Still others compared it to a failed low-fare spin-off airline and an element from the periodic table. And yet another said the typeface Helvetica is synonymous with American Airlines. Most revealing, perhaps, in our age of transparency, over half of those polled by Ad Age magazine feel big companies should get public input before changing logos or packaging or products at all.
So the more established your brand is, the more you have to lose. They were subject to a lot of criticism. Does anybody remember that rebrand or no? Well, it was only for 6 days, so.
I remember IHOP changed to something else.
Oh.
A long time, and then they realized they messed it up.
You know what? I'll have to look into that. I don't remember that one.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Okay, so, I think I went about my slides backwards. We're going to first look at some of the wrong reasons to rebrand. This first one is something I myself am guilty of. I'm sick of this logo. I'm sick of this colors. I need a change, right? Well, your customers may love that logo. They may recognize that about you, and they don't see that logo every day like you do. So, something to consider. Is it really necessary? Is it working? Covering up a crisis. I've known brands who have maybe been in some financial trouble and rebranded to try to, save face. The thing is, consumers are smart enough to see through your rebrand. They know what it is. So be transparent, be honest, have integrity so your customers trust you. Another reason not to rebrand is because sales are down. New colors are not going to save your business. You have to have a strategy. Rebranding could generate some buzz. You might have an initial something from it, but if you don't have that strategy, you could alienate your current market and end up setting your sales back. Let's go back this way. Some of the right reasons to rebrand. You're repositioning yourself in the market. So your brand should obviously align with your target market. If you're targeting a new customer profile, whether you have a new product, a place, price, or promotion, your brand needs to follow suit. If you have a new philosophy, your business's mission, vision, values should always govern every decision that you make, right? That includes your brand decisions. So if your vision, mission, values, some of that has changed, then maybe you need to look at your visual identity along with that, your brand identity, which is more than visual. We'll get into that. If there's a merger or acquisition, obviously you're going to have to rebrand in that position. No. And a successful rebrand will prevent confusion and keep your current customers' trust and let them know what's going on. So you mentioned IHOP. Does anyone else have any rebrand failures? No, go ahead.
So they changed to the International House of Burgers. And we
Oh.
actually thought it was a joke at the time.
Yeah.
I don't remember this.
It was again like 6 days or.
Wow. Any other rebrands that you can think of that you don't like, you didn't like how it went over, or Twitter, right? We're gonna look at that one today. Yeah, that's a big one.
I think Jaguar just recently did that. They got rid of the panther, the icon of the animal, and they just went with lettering, and people are kind of trashing it already.
Well, yeah, that doesn't make any sense to me.
It's so iconic. The panther is so iconic.
Right? Yeah. Why would you change that? I don't get it. Anything else? No? All right. Okay. So you mentioned Twitter. We'll get to that one. First, we're going to look at HBO and Max. Does anyone remember this rebrand?
Yes.
Yeah. Have any thoughts about it?
It was confusing, but now that we have it, we like it.
Yeah.
And it makes sense because they opened up how many things they have. It's not just movies.
Yeah.
So I'm for it.
I have mixed feelings about this. I think they did put a lot of thought and consideration into it. They rolled it out gradually. But we'll take a look here. See what people say. How do I get this? There we go. There we go.
Continue straight.
The open internet has changed a few things in our lives.
How much is this?
But guess what the internet hasn't
Skip that ad. Well, maybe.
changed? Money.
Okay,
Yep.
I guess we have to watch
Money.
it.
HBO Max, where they're getting a rebrand, and let's just say it's not going over well with a lot of folks. Now, before we get into the reaction, here's what they're doing. HBO Max will soon just be called Max. Now, Warner Media merged with Discovery last year to form Warner Brothers Discovery, so now it'll be HBO, HGTV, Food Network, Cartoon Network, and TLC all under one umbrella. Now, people are split on this change. There are people upset about removing the iconic HBO name. There are others already planning to cancel their subscription. And then there are the streamers who think this is simply a brilliant idea. It is scheduled to maintain HBO Max's current price of almost $16 a month and launches on May 23rd.
All right, so they did take some consideration and some time. They rolled it out gradually. The problem, I think, with this rebrand is they alienated their current audience who grew up watching the iconic TV shows on HBO. Something I would have liked to see is that, that staticky, I would have liked to see them maybe hold on to that. I feel like that would have made it a little bit, nostalgic for me, kind of held on to some of that.
HBO Max.
Oops. Okay. So next, Twitter and X. Anyone have thoughts about this? I know it's controversial. What's that?
No thoughts whatsoever.
You can't say something nice.
But isn't it interesting that they still say X, formerly known?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
They can't get rid of the other name
Well, yeah.
because they think people aren't going to know what it is.
Right. So why? So why did they do it? Yeah.
So as a total side note, I was at a TED conference when Elon Musk was talking to the TED audience about buying Twitter and what he was going to do with it. It is very lofty. Twitter is the world's town hall, and because it's not open, it needs to be preserved. And so I'm going to buy it to open it up to the world.
Wow.
And that did not happen.
No, and the opposite happened. And I mean, we think of the tweet. What is a tweet? It's a verb. It is a piece of that. So what do you do now? What is it?
I think he got incensed because they kicked Donald Trump out at the time, and he said no private company can shut down, whether you like their political opinions or not. That should not be the case, and that's why he decided to buy it and make it open. Which is
Yeah.
fine, but then.
Yeah, I mean, well, and he didn't tell anyone really what it was about, so people
I
were
still
left to
don't
fill
know.
in the holes. Yeah,
I don't know what X means.
right. Yeah, exactly. Well,
It's happening.
yeah.
First company, right? X.com?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Oh, I didn't know that.
SpaceX and.
Oh, right.
He's gonna turn Twitter to like a payment system. You get a lot of what's it called money transmission business across all states now.
Interesting. Huh. Well, let's see what the internet has to say.
So you think you know Wix? Do
I
you
can't get rid of
really?
the ads. I'm sorry.
First up, we've got shape video masks.
Nope, it's not gonna let me.
You can use different shapes to create completely different vibes and aesthetics. Or you can create your own graphic. I use the shape composition here. Just import any SVG file and set it as a shape mask. Nice. Next up, we'll keep it moving with the hover box. You can use it to animate any element
also do
and create
websites
these
in
really
Wix if anyone's
eye-catching interactions. And what I love is that the level of control you get here is crazy precise. You can set your animation ease, scale size, and position to create this really dope effect. Third, we've got the mega menu. This not only lets you organize your site menu into the different subcategories, but it also looks amazing when you add in different elements like text, buttons, images, and pretty much anything you can think of. And last but not least, we've got My Designs. This feature lets you save any section or component that you've already created, and you can use it as a starting point on any of the pages or sites you're working on. This one's personally saved me a ton of time. So you've got all these features. Now see what you can do with them. Get on over to Wix and create something dope.
Please be the only one.
This morning, the splashy sound of a major change coming to Twitter and X on the verge of replacing the iconic Bluebird logo. Owner Elon Musk tweeting, and soon we shall bid adieu to the Twitter brand and gradually all the birds.
He's made a number of changes, not all of them widely liked.
Musk has already slashed Twitter's workforce by 75% since buying the company in October for $44 billion. He's imposed an $8 a month subscription fee for blue check marks and changed the company's name to X Corporation in business documents. But one tech journalist questioning this latest move, tweeting, rebranding HBO to Max was the dumbest rebrand in recent history. Elon, hold my beer, and or whatever is being partaken at 3 a.m.
He said in a recent Twitter Spaces reference to the logo, this change should have been done a long time ago. He said, quote, "We're cutting the Twitter logo off the building with blowtorches."
Twitter's new CEO, Linda Yaccarino, saying there's absolutely no limit to this transformation. X will be the platform that will deliver, well, everything. But several former marketing officers at the company reportedly expressed shock at such a big change.
This is a sign that Elon Musk, as an engineer, honors functionality rather than the attachment many millions of viewers may have to the brand and the image.
Now, Twitter's new competitor, Threads, from the parent company.
Okay, so what can we learn here? Some rebranding do's. Maintain consistency on every single touch point. We're not just looking at a new logo, right? We're looking at your user interface, how your customers interact with you, whatever your brand touches, color palette, photography, look and feel, icons, patterns, packaging, your brand voice. Twitter or X could have done a better job of maintaining the brand identity that Twitter did for such a long time. Like I said, I mean, even the action of a tweet, it's ingrained in us, right? So why move away from that? Consider your audience. Where are they going to connect with your brand? X didn't announce their new logo. I can't see my notes here. And so it left users, can I move this down? There we go. It didn't announce their new logo, didn't announce their new strategy, their new positioning. So it left users to form their own theories. X saw a rise in hate speech. It was attributed to Musk's position as a free speech abolitionist. Ad revenue decreased by 50% that first year, and I think they're continuing to lose money. And then transition gradually, give people time to adjust. That's something that HBO Max did a good job of doing. They announced the rebranding through marketing campaigns and made the adjustments one platform at a time. And the very least, keep it simple, avoid confusion, and build your audience's trust. And maintain their trust as well. Some rebranding don'ts. Don't chase trends. Why hurry up to blend in? Your outcomes can be generic, forgettable. Don't rush your rebrand. Analyze whether you need a rebrand and if it applies to your current market. X lost between $4 billion and $20 billion after rebranding. So does it make sense to rebrand? And don't alienate your current audience. How do your current clients fit into your new strategy? If you've cultivated a strong identity with specific segments, a drastic change could alienate them. I forget to add this. Okay. So someone who has done a great job of rebranding is Steve Jobs. We're all familiar. Steve Jobs has at the time of his passing, had a net worth of over $10 billion, an IQ of over 160. From 1997 to 2011, he paid himself $1 salary, and he earned his first $1 million at 23 years old. And something that Jobs says about branding: get closer than ever to your customers. So close, in fact, that you tell them what they need well before they realize it themselves. But he hasn't always had successes. He's learned from some pretty major failures, so we'll kind of look at that. In 1976, Apple was founded by Jobs and Steve Wozniak, and they started the company with $1,300. They sold Jobs' microbus and Wozniak's calculator to start the company. They sold their first computer for $666. In 1983, they launched Lisa. Lisa was a computer. The price tag of that computer was almost $10,000 in 1983. It was a huge failure. They ended up with 2,700 unsold units that ended up in a Utah landfill. And part of that failure is attributed to how they marketed it. They took out a 9-page ad in the New York Times that was mostly just technical features. So, I wouldn't read it. Let's look at it. So, okay, this is the new computer. Anyone remember these computers? I do. Yeah, so this is 1-page, 2-page, 3-page, 4-page. Who's going to read this? This is like an instruction manual. It's not selling anyone anything. So in 1985, Jobs is actually pushed out of Apple, and he purchases Pixar from George Lucas. He starts working with storytellers. In 1995, Apple isn't doing great. They lose $816 million. And a couple years later, they're facing bankruptcy, and Jobs returns to Apple. In 2001, he launches the Think Different campaign. The Think Different campaign stopped featuring computers in advertisements. It had a clear and compelling message that was filtered through a story lens, with the customer positioned as the hero of the story. It shifted the image of Apple from a struggling computer company to a global leader in innovative products. This was when he launched the iMac, the iPad, and then later the iPhone launched, which has changed our tech landscape forever. It's changed all of our lives. So let's look at that campaign.
Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them. But the only thing you can't do is ignore them, because they change things. They push the human race forward. And while some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.
Does anyone remember this campaign? Kind of gets me going a little bit. It's a good one. Yeah, it's humanizing the product and what it can actually do for us, instead of telling us about all the technical features. How can it actually change our lives? So a lot of what we're going to talk about today comes from Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. If you're familiar with that book, I'm sorry, because a lot of it, what you're going to hear, is from there. A quote that I really resonates with me from this book is: the brain remembers music and forgets the noise, just like the brain remembers some brands and forgets about the others. So if you are familiar, hopefully this will kind of give you a little refresher and maybe spark some new ideas today. So we're going to look at clarifying your message. And why do we want to do that? Well, confusing customers costs you money. How many people, potential clients, are buying from the competition just because they don't know what it is that you offer, or they don't know how your offer works? Customers make buying decisions based off of not what we say, but off of what they hear. No one can resist a good story. The average human spends more than 30% of their time daydreaming, except when they're listening to a story. When we're engaged in the story does the daydreaming for us. And story combats noise. It organizes information in a way that people are compelled to listen. It's like a sense-making device. Our brains are wired to know the patterns in a story, right? So it makes sense to us. Another quote from Tom Braun, The Philosophy of Branding. A brand, much like a person, must have a core sense of self. This identity should be clear and unwavering, serving as a beacon of authenticity in a world often filled with imitation. So, clarifying your message. Why do we want to clarify our message? Well, if you're not clear, your audience isn't going to be clear. Is your message simple? Is it relevant? Is it repeatable? Can your customers go to your website and know what you do within 5 seconds of looking at it? People don't have the attention span, and they're not going to take the time to try to figure out what it is that you do. So tell them right off the bat what it is that you offer, why they should buy from you, how is it going to make their lives better, and then how do they buy from you? Come on, mouse. How are you going to get them from the problem to the solution? Oops. So, who do we look at when we're thinking about a rebrand? The customer is always going to be the hero in your story, not your brand. No one cares about you, which I think is freeing. I enjoy that. People are preoccupied with themselves, right? They're trying to solve their own problems. That is what is on their mind, not anything about you or your business. If your customer is the hero, then you can position yourself, as a trusted resource or a guide to that customer. So we're looking at your current customers. We want to make sure they stay happy, right? We want to look at new and potential customers. What kind of audience is it that you want to attract with this change? And we also want to look at the competition, see what insights we can learn, who are they marketing to, and how are they positioning themselves in the marketplace. So we are looking at our target market. We're going to analyze our customer base. So who already is buying from you, and what do they think about you? What do you know about them? How old are they? Where do they live? What are their interests? You can engage with them on social media. You can distribute customer surveys. Ask them questions. Find out what they think about what it is that you're doing. What works for them? What makes their lives better? What would they like to see change? Conduct market research. Identify market trends. What are some holes that your product or service can fill? Look for trends. Look for similar products to see where they're focusing their efforts, and then you can hone in further for your own product's unique selling value. And who are your competitors targeting? Look at who is and isn't your target audience, so you're not wasting your time trying to market to everyone. Create personas, define your target audience, and learn how to reach them. If you're not familiar with personas, here's kind of some different things to look at. So how old is your customer? How do they identify? Where are they located? What do they do for fun? What is their income level? Their education level? What do they do for a living? Do they live alone? Do they have a roommate? Do they have a life partner? Are they married, single, whatever? Who do they trust? What is it that they read and watch? And ultimately, what do they value and what do they need? The market is constantly changing, and strong brands have the ability to adapt with whatever is changing, because they're remaining consistent in who they are, and they're able to seize opportunities because they know their audience. So, reaching your target market, how are we going to get there? Well, let's look at What does the hero want, and how can our brand help get them there? When we identify what it is that the customer wants and we communicate it clearly, it gives our story direction and definition. Who or what is getting in the way of your customer getting what they need, and how can your brand close that gap? So the opening and closing of a story gap is what drives human behavior, right? So you think about hunger, that opens the gap. Having a meal is what closes the gap, and that in between is the gap. That's what drives us, right? So when we fail to open up that story gap, the customer has no motivation to actually engage with us, and defining what they want helps to open up that gap. We're all familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We all have the same basic needs, right? So, at the bottom we have our psychological needs, our breathing, food, water, shelter, safety and security. I got these a little out of order on my notes. Safety and security are health, employment, property, family, social ability. Love and belonging, friendship, family, intimacy, connection, self-esteem, confidence, achievement, respect of others, individuality. And then at the very top, we have the self-actualization. So our morality, creativity, spontaneity, acceptance, purpose, meaning, our inner potential. How can your brand help people survive, provide security, find love, belonging, help them achieve, or find meaning? I love this quote by Alfred Hitchcock. What is drama after all but life with the dull bits cut out? So we're paring down our message, we're clarifying, and just getting out the exciting part, right? So all great stories are about survival. What does the hero want? Who or what is standing in their way? What will their life look like if they do or don't get what they want? So we have a formula. Donald Miller gives us this beautiful formula for a story. It starts with a character, the hero, who is your customer. The customer has a problem. The problem stands in their way from getting what they want. And at the peak of the despair, you, the guide, step in to give them a plan. You call them to action, and that action helps them avoid failure and ultimately have success. So we're going to break this down a little bit. The customer is your hero in the story. So when you identify something that the customer wants and communicate it simply, they're invited to engage with your brand. If the offer is too vague, customers won't know why they need your offer. Potential desire opens up that story gap. It makes it interesting. Will they get from point A to point V? It's what that drives that human behavior, like hunger to a meal. If we fail to define what the customer wants, then we fail to open up that story gap. So what we're trying to do is narrow the focus to a single desire. Too many offers can be cluttering, confusing. That's always something that you can offer later down the road, different segments, different subplots, if you will. But ultimately, our goal is to clearly define something simple and relevant to survival that customers want and become known for delivering the solution. So the problem, every story needs a villain, right? It gives conflict a clear point of focus. The worse the problem, the more sympathy we have for the hero. It engages your audience. Customers buy solutions to problems that they are having in their lives. Talking about problems that customers face deepens the interest in our offer. It tells them we understand them. It's the hook that gets them. Great villains are a root source. They're reliable, they're singular, they are real. Some of the problems that our customers face can be categorized in 3 different ways. External, so that is like restaurant solves that external problem of hunger, right? Internal is really the deepest point of need, so frustration, self-doubt, intimidation. And then we have the philosophical problem, the why. Can you position your product or tools to be used against something that shouldn't be. CarMax does a great job of this, so we're going to look at that.
Car dealership again?
Yeah, we're just haggling over the price. It's all part of the game, it's fine.
Sue, was it fine being a WNBA champ once? No, you won it 3 more times.
But it's fine to haggle when you can just go to CarMax where everyone gets the same price.
You're right. Stop calling me.
Did I call the right number?
I'm just trying to see if you're coming to the
Game tonight. Or not.
Oh, Janae! Hey, yeah, I'll be there.
Never settle on the lot or on the court. CarMax.
So CarMax solves the problem of having to deal with a salesperson. None of us enjoy that. Sorry to anyone who we all do sales in here, don't we? Customers shouldn't have to deal with sketchy or annoying salespeople. So it's also that philosophical problem that it solves. Oops, did we go backwards? All right, so next is the guide, which is you. You're not another hero. If the customer or the hero could solve the problem themselves, a problem wouldn't exist, right? So positioning yourself as the hero actually creates competition and creates distance between you and the customer. So again, no one cares about you. We see things through our own lens, so does your customer. A good guide has empathy, lets the customer know you understand their problem, it has authority, you're competent, and have demonstrated experience. So that could look like having testimonials, having stats, having awards, logos of brands you've worked with on your website or marketing materials, things like that. And customers ultimately want to know that they can trust and respect you, that you have integrity. Okay, so we've identified what they want, we've defined their problems, we've positioned ourselves as the guide, but we haven't given them a plan to take action. So making a purchase is a huge step, right? Customers want to have a clear path, they want to avoid confusion, and they want to avoid risk. So we have 2 different types of plans that we can offer. A process plan, which are steps to avoid confusion. So if you're buying a car, you go and test drive a car, you purchase a car, maybe you get free maintenance for life. An agreement plan alleviates fear, so it takes that risk away. CarMax only sells vehicles that have went through their inspection process. So you know if you buy a car from CarMax, you're not gonna get a lemon. And call to action. So customers need to be challenged to call to action. There needs to be a reason for them to buy, right? All humans only take action after being challenged by an outside force. So a call to action communicates a clear and direct step the customer can take to solve their problem. Without having a clear call to action, the customer does not engage with our brand. So being passive about your brand, it communicates a lack of belief in our product, and the customer senses that, right? They sense that weakness. A couple of different call to actions you can have is a direct call to action or a transitional call to action. Direct is like buy now, schedule an appointment, call today. Transitional is less risky, usually offers something for free, so that could be a free consultation, maybe a newsletter that positions yourself as an expert in the industry, maybe free samples, free trials, things like that. And then ultimately, we want the customer to avoid failure. That's what we're here to do, right? So avoid failure and have success. So if nothing is at stake in our story, there is no story. If nothing's to be gained or lost, really no one cares. So what is at stake? The hero is motivated by escaping something bad or experiencing something good. Why should your customer buy your product? You need to show them the cost of not doing business with you. Allstate does a great job with this with their Mayhem campaign.
I'm a parking gate and I'm all out of whack. It's gonna take a lot more than a little ticket to get out of here. And if you have cut rate car insurance, this could leave you all bent out of shape. So get Allstate and be better protected from mayhem. Yeah, like me. Someone! That was broken too, pal.
That cracks me up every time I watch it. All right. So at the end of our story, we want to have success, right? So we want to offer a vision of how great our customer's life is going to be when they engage with our products or our services. And it should be specific and clear. So telling them before your brand versus after. What is it that they have? How are they feeling? What's an average day like for them? In all great endings, the hero either wins power or position. It unifies with someone or something, experiences a self-realization. Any of those things make them whole, right? Make their life complete, meet their needs. And ultimately, again, keep it simple. What is it that you offer? How is it going to make my life better? What do I need to do to buy it? If you feel confused, clarify your message. If you're not clear, your audience isn't going to be clear. Make sure it's simple, relevant, repeatable, and someone can look at your brand and know what you do within 5 seconds. So we've looked at our story, we've looked at our audience. Now the actual rebrand, right? What is it that you need to touch? So look at everything that your brand has. Have a list of that. This is just not an extensive list, but some things that you will ultimately be looking at when you rebrand. So your brand position lets your customer know your new mission, values, vision, reestablishes your unique selling point. Your brand voice is your perspective. It could be formal, casual, announce your brand in your new tone of voice. Think of your brand as a person. So what is your brand's personality like? Are they cracking jokes, the life of the party? Are they buttoned up, serious? And then your logo and visuals. Make sure that that matches your position, matches your new target audience, and you'll look at things like your fonts, your color palette, icons, patterns, packaging, business cards, brochures. We could go on and on. Photography. Make sure that your photography tells the story of your brand. And user interface, so your website, social media, if you have a storefront, if you're using an app, any of those things. Anything that your customer is going to interact with your brand. And advertisements, make sure those clearly communicate changes to your brand, what that means for your customers. And it's easy to kind of forget some pieces of your brand where they live. I think it's good to have a list of those. So, thinking about old landing pages, old email templates, your maybe old ad copy, things like that. And when you are rebranding, make sure you're testing, seeing what things work. So if you're familiar with A/B testing, it's just kind of having two different versions and sending them both out and see what works better. And that's it. If you have any questions, you can reach me. I'm on all the socials and also directly. Does anyone have any thoughts or questions or anything, any brands that they want to talk about? We have about 15 minutes left, so. Sure.
It's more on the persona space.
Sure.
Is there do personas in some way sort of feather into like the jobs to be done framework? If you're familiar with that?
I'm not familiar with the jobs to be done.
I don't know. It's like you might have a persona that's me and my age, my demographic, and my likes and all those things, but it's out of the context of what I do in my work, which is comprised of a whole bunch of little jobs that is in its own way separate from who the persona is. Some companies organize around jobs to be done, teams around jobs to be done, products around jobs to be done.
Yeah, I think, personally, I have some different types, very different types of customer personas. And I think that's, for me, what I'm struggling the most with, because each persona does have a different, kind of fits into a different category. So there is different types of work that each one does. So does that answer your question? Is that kind of what you're?
I'm just, the personas as a framework is pretty convenient and well understood, right? But It is, in many ways, outside of context, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have a brand manager as a persona, but they do 30 different jobs.
Right.
And there might be different jobs in his organization than in his, and I just, the
Yeah.
abstraction is a little weird to me.
Yeah, I think for me, the thing that I use the personas the most for is how to reach them and finding out what they value, so then I can showcase that in my story and then find them where they are. So yeah, each persona for me personally in my business, that story may look a little bit different to each persona.
So what was your question? I missed it.
There's a jobs to be done. There's a book and a framework for just jobs to be done. It's just this idea that we all do, our job is comprised of a number of different jobs that are, sort of finite and discrete in their own execution.
Yeah.
They culminate in a title, for example, right?
Yeah.
But the value proposition is really about how can I, sort of kick ass in each one of these individual jobs, not necessarily in this overarching umbrella of a job title. It's just a different look at it.
So your question is, how is that tied into branding?
I'm just curious if anyone's really kind of figured out a way to sort of bring those together, because I do think those are very different views of the world.
Yes.
So,
I'm gonna look into the jobs to be done. I'm gonna put that in my notes. Anyone else have any? Yeah.
I'm curious around determining your brand voice. Are you creating a brand voice based around what your believed customer or persona wants to hear? Do you have your own voice that you want to inject into the world, and you're trying to find customers that match and resonate with that voice? I'm just kind of curious, which goes first?
Yeah, I think they go together. I think you have to kind of work on those in tandem, right? So you want to stay true to who you are and your brand, but you also want to reach your audience. So maybe you're here, but they're here. How can you kind of adjust both to like meet in the middle so that you are relevant to your customer? But I that's a struggle, right? I mean, that's a big struggle, because you hear a lot of things that tell you, you be who you are, be unique, be this, be different. But are we looking at our customer and their needs when we're doing that? I think you have to have both.
Quick follow-up question.
Yeah.
If you had to change your voice to a point where it wasn't necessarily authentic to you to get the customer, or you had to go and find new customers to be your authentic voice, which pathway would you personally choose?
I would have to stay true to who I am, because I need to enjoy the work that I do, right? But if I'm not that's not resonating with my audience, I think I need to start looking for a new audience, or find out why it's not resonating. So I think that's when that customer surveys, getting that information, so testing all our assumptions about our business, I think that's when we can use that data and information.
Awesome, thank you.
Can you go back a slide or two
Sure.
to where you were saying all the steps? It just seemed the one you were just on, yeah.
This one.
So it seems like a lot of words, but when you see a ad or see a commercial, there's not a lot of words. So how do you fill all of that?
Well, I mean, okay, so like the CarMax ad, for example, we've got the customer there. We can all identify with that customer. We know that problem, right? So I think you don't have to necessarily tell a problem. I don't think you necessarily need to, right? We need to establish a problem. We need to establish a problem for ourselves so that we know how to position the solution. But when we're marketing to our customers, I think we're telling them, we know this is the problem. This is what we have to offer to fix it. If you don't choose us to fix this problem, this is what it could look like. If you do choose us, this is what it could look like. I think just breaking it down, to those parts, but we need to know the whole story to be able to tell it succinctly.
I'm gonna interject on
Sure.
that. So I'm in entertainment and I'm a producer and I'm a director and we film commercials and advertisements. So going back to your CarMax ad, right? The problem, dry lips, right? Who doesn't experience dry lips? We all experience dry lips no matter what season. So it's something that's evergreen, depending on what season you're in, right? If you want to make something that is going specifically for winter time, that's something that you can do. You can do it for summertime. You can do it for springtime. There's not ever a need where you don't need to have moisturized lips. So it's something that's super easy to convey, like if whatever product that you guys have, there's a reason that you're trying to make it. There's a reason that you guys are trying to put this product out, put different reasonings on why you would market your product to somebody. It would be easier for you to kind of narrow down how you're going to target your direct audience from there. And again, like if you have a certain product that you have, go on ChatGPT and be like, hey, what are a few different ways that I can market this lip gloss that I have to the demographic of 14 to 18-year-old girls, right? I want to market this basketball shirt or this jersey or these shoes to these boys 14 to 20 years old, right? And you can just keep plugging that in and asking it different questions and different variations. Don't go by the first one that pops up. Keep plugging it, keep asking it. But AI is really integrative right now, and it is amazing on what it can do and how much it can affect your business and help you if you're like kind of losing words or losing thought. And you're like, I don't know how to word this. I don't know how to ask anything. So there's a lot that you can do with that and a lot that this can help you with on AI.
Man, I had a great AI tool that I had in this presentation and I took it out and now I cannot remember what it is. Man, but it will help you. Oh, dang.
I'll reach out to you.
Oh man, I can't believe I took it out because I thought I didn't have time for it. And anyway, great AI tools out there that can help you with personas, help you, just even clarifying a message. ChatGPT is great for that. What else was going to say? Oh, and test your assumptions. Ask people their opinions about your product. Just because you are thinking of it in a certain way, get some outside perspective. Maybe somebody else has some great insight as to why they think your product is valuable. So I think just being open and asking questions is really helpful. Yeah.
Are there any successful or unsuccessful rebrands over the last 5 years that stand out in your own mind that you want to share or talk about and maybe say as to why? I'm not putting you on the spot, but if you come to mind for me, so I'm just kind of curious what comes to mind.
For me, the Twitter one was really just. I don't even know why. I am in shock about it. I'm like, it doesn't make any sense to me. But that's for me. That's mine one that I'm just like.
Well, which one
why?
Did it well? What's a good one?
I kind of like the HBO Max. I think there were some problems and they probably learned some lessons from it, but I think it was successful. They had a good approach into doing it. Man, you are putting me on the spot.
No, well, it's interesting because one of your slides was talking about don't do it when you're having a PR crisis, but interestingly enough, a lot of companies do precisely
Sure,
that.
yeah.
Including Facebook's pivot to Meta.
Which is what?
Facebook's pivot to Meta.
Yeah.
Oh.
Now it's Meta and Facebook as a product.
Yeah, and how do you feel about that? How do you think that's going over?
I left corporate social media a long time ago for personal use anyway, but they sensed the PR crisis that was damaging the brand and they reinvented. You can argue about whether or not they're going well, but they're still sitting on a lot of cash.
Sure, yeah.
But it's interesting, right? So
Yeah.
They're almost kind of like guidelines, not necessarily hard rules, right? But,
Yeah.
So that's kind of why I think it's an interesting question.
Mm-hmm.
Like the X-ray brand, it's more fascinating to me on the level where wealth can purchase a communication communication channel that has access to, you know, millions of people. I think that's the play. They're less about playing by conventional rules and more about having a communication channel to connect with one. Having control of how that channel works.
Yeah. I think what the Meta, the Facebook and Meta, I don't know if it was successful. I mean, did it change any of our opinions about Facebook? I don't know. I don't know, man.
Changed it in a negative way.
Yeah.
Because before Facebook was like, I don't want to say this, but they called it like, oh, it's the old people thing. Like it's all the TikTok stuff goes to Instagram, and then from Instagram it goes to Facebook, you know. And I feel like that was a stigma behind it. And then they evolved the Meta thing. Oh, pay for your verification badge. Here's this monthly thing for this. So they started to break it down in a weird way where people are like, well, I had 100,000 followers. I've been trying to get a blue check for 4 years. When am I going to get a blue check? Now I can pay $15 for it a month and like bundle it. So now I feel like there's a weird stigma where there's like a weird cash grab going on. Everything's like costs more money than it did before, you know? So it's kind of making people like, like a little weird about it, to where they're like, all right, I'm just going to go on TikTok. Like, I don't want to deal with Facebook at all, you know? So,
I think a lot of people are turning away from social media.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, it's evolving, right? Like social media is going to last, but it won't just be centralized and corporate controlled.
yeah. It's overwhelming. It is overwhelming to think about social media and how it affects our lives, how it affects our business. That could be a whole, and I'm sure it is a whole course, class subject. Anything else? Anyone else want to share anything?
I have another question.
Yeah.
Because I'm in the process of starting a new venture. I had a previous company for 8 years, and you know, like the biggest thing is I want to make sure that my new company looks very completely different from the way my old company did. I mean, which is easiest, it's just colors and logos.
Sure.
But the other thing is that I'm trying to get an understanding of kind of like so right now I'm in the process of doing customer interviews, and I'm trying to figure out like how might be a good way to use those interviews to, because right now I don't really have a brand.
Mm-hmm.
So I can create it completely from scratch depending on what my customers really want, you know, as long as it's authentic, of course, to me, given your
Sure.
advice. I'm kind of curious or thoughts on, from the beginning, before you have a brand that you can ruin, like how do you put those pieces in place so that you
Well, I mean, when I'm working on a brand for a client, I look at their client base. I look at those customers, kind of their personas, and see where they're at, where they kind of fit in the world, what they're doing, what they like, what they value. And then I'm also looking at the competition to see what they're doing, because not only do you want to, be attractive to your customer, you want to kind of know where you fit into the market and be able to set yourself apart, but look at what's working for the competitors, what is not working, where can you stand out. And you can even do testing with your branding with your customers, maybe have some different options and what resonates the most with them, and ask them why.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah. How much time do we have? Well, it's noon, so I guess any other questions or anything else? No? Well, thank you all for being here today.